Thanks, Josh, and thanks, everyone. Yeah, it's really cool to be here. Yes, hi, everyone. I'm Lana Gibson, and I run Lanalytics here in Aotearoa. I work with large organisations, as Josh said, to help them understand audience behaviour and make better decisions using tools like GA4, Search Console, and dashboards. Though increasingly the work is less about reporting numbers and more about getting confidence in interpreting what those numbers actually mean. It's becoming a much messier space. People are discovering content through AI tools, social platforms, newsletters, and going straight to deep-level website pages from Google. In many cases, they're getting answers without reaching a website at all. And Drupal and other structured CMS platforms are becoming more sophisticated in how they model and deliver content across channels and services. Privacy protections and changing browser technologies also mean we have less visibility over users. So it's really fun having my job right now. But no, it's actually quite an exciting time. But understanding what is working for users is becoming harder. Even with all the changes, today I'll show you that fundamentally the work is the same. It's about understanding audiences, where they are and what they're doing. It's understanding their behaviour and building a narrative across all the imperfect data sources to guide decision making. So I'll share large-scale case studies where we really transform digital strategies using Google data. And I've also got some light touch case studies which will help you get the most out of your own GA4 accounts. So I mentioned it earlier, we are losing visibility into digital performance, and it's not because we're doing anything wrong, it's behaviours are changing. And people are engaging with content through AI, social, and often not reaching our website at all. So if your data feels harder to interpret lately, you're not alone. And we don't yet have reliable performance data for LLMs, despite what some tools claim. And even when we do, it won't give us a complete picture. So there are ways that we can understand what's happening, and here are a few practical tips. So in GA4, you can see some of the website traffic from AI tools in your acquisition reports. The data can give you insight into your AI audience, but it's not complete. Treat it as a signal, not the full story. So this is the people who click from AI into your website, if there's a link in those responses. Search Console shows some Google AIO searches. Search Console is generally used to see your website performance in Google and see the search terms leading to your website from Google. And mixed in with those Google terms are queries from AI overviews. So it's all kind of just showing the terms that people are using. You can't pull out the AI terms from the normal Google search terms, but you can use a filter, a regex filter in Search Console to see searches longer than 5 words. So those long searches that are more likely to be AI searches. And have a look, it's quite interesting seeing those kind of more longer rambling searches. And you can also compare Search Console clicks versus impressions, which I'll show you about in a second. But ultimately, use this data as signals, not truth, and start tracking your ecosystem, not just your website, because these aren't giving this a complete picture. So this is a Search Console, Te Papa's Search Console report, and the blue line is clicks to the website from Google, so these are also from AI overviews. The purple line is impressions, and impressions mean that someone has seen a URL in Google results. Now, an impression could be on the 21st page of results, so no one has actually seen it, but it's been present in results. So it's not a reliable performance metric. However, when you get this quite strong trend of impressions increasing while clicks staying the same, that's a really good, that implies that you are showing up in Google AIO searches, just over this current period of time. And you can delve deeper into the particular terms that are generating those impressions and test it out yourself. I did this with Te Papa, and I can see their links appearing in AI overviews and Google AI overviews. Using AI within GA4. So previously the AI kind of functionality within GA4 has been a bit rubbish, so I've kind of glossed over it, but I don't know if you've got access to this. I've just recently got access to the GA4 AI Advisor. It's in beta, so not everyone has access. They're rolling it out slowly. It's basically just an AI panel in your GA4 account. And it kind of queries your GA4 data and also pulls in stuff from, around the web. So it's genuinely useful, which is exciting. It quickly pulls together data across reports. GA4 is like a puzzle box, and it's like pulling the levers and twisting things and filtering, and it's impossible to find what you need. This actually makes it a lot easier to find the data that you need. It's really good for spikes. Like if you've got a spike, you just say, what happened on this date, trends, and what's changed. And it's good for content as well. You can say, what content is getting good engagement, like to guide your content decisions. But ultimately, you still need to understand GA4 as a language to turn insights into action. It's very easy to get misled by these insights. They're not all meaningful, they're not all correct. So you also need a sound GA4 setup, and we're getting a lot of clients saying, I don't trust my data, and we need to make sure that things are being tracked as you want them to be tracked. But if you have that, it is useful. But also in larger orgs, you need consistent measures, governance, and organizational context to really, I get this feeling that AI is going to really make things a lot more confusing in larger orgs with everyone using the tool in different ways, getting different answers, using it differently over time. It's going to take a lot of effort and governance to bring things together so we don't get inconsistent or conflicting insights. So while AI can give you more insights faster, it takes GA4 experience and expertise to get past the noise to actionable insights that can drive better decisions. So for example, when I asked about my landing pages with high engagement, it noted 2 pages. It was like, these are doing great. And I knew that those pages had only had 1 view or 1 visit each. So, if I base decisions on that, it's not very useful. And it also misinterpreted my newsletter sign-up event and gave false insights. So it's reading things, it's not reading them quite right. So you just need that layer. But once you have that layer, the setup and the understanding layer, it's really useful. So now let's look at measuring page performance. I often get asked about how do you measure content performance? And it is hard. It depends on the purpose of the page. I think we'd all like to have this page is performing well, this page is performing badly, and the data for this, the data for that. But it really depends. And so, for example, I gave training to the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and we looked at page performance. We looked at GA4 insights for the building performance site, which informs New Zealanders about the regulations they need to follow in building projects. And like most large content-driven sites, we found that most people came straight to deep-level pages from Google. So, these individual pages are doing a lot of work. They have to answer specific questions and lead people on the right journey that they need to go on. So we looked at the 2 most popular pages, and we defined the intended purpose of the page. So this one here is a browse page. There are links, onward links down here. And it's designed for people to find an onwards path. It doesn't matter if people leave the page quickly without scrolling. It's about them getting that onwards path. So with GA4, we're able to check how many people click a link within the page compared to how many people exit the page. So leave the website from that page without clicking a link. And the data showed that lots of people were clicking on links. The majority were, so the page was performing as intended. Now, this is a deep level content page, and the purpose of this page is to enable people to download PDFs and click out to information on external sites. And we can track this in GA4, and it showed us that they were doing this in large numbers. Now, so ideally, you can define the function of your page and use GA4 data to see if it's being used as intended. Now, I know probably some in your heads, you might be thinking, well, what if it's a flat content page? We have like large sites, we just have pages with no real interaction to track, no call to action. And that is a bit trickier. Because engagement, people spending a long time on the page, scrolling, that can be engagement and them really engaging with the content, or it can be confusion and getting lost. So if data is unclear, we do need to get a wider view, like from user research, on-page feedback, call center data, or on-site searches. We go a bit beyond that page. And I'll show you a bit more about getting that wider view in this case study. So we're scaling up now and moving on to measuring website performance. And I tend to, site level measurement and KPIs for large content-driven sites can be a little bit dangerous because, you've got, on large sites, you've got multiple audiences, you've got multiple services or tasks to complete. And getting that like single view on that, it doesn't say a lot, everything is muddied. Add to that, like, say you've got sessions as a KPI. I mean, we all know a lot of our sessions are just dropping because of Google AIO. So that's not our fault, we're putting a KPI on something that we have no control over. So I know that a lot of senior leadership teams love KPIs and they're super useful for purchases, sign-ups, things like that, really concrete conversions. But I get wary, but this kind of site-wide measurement is useful for spotting change and telling a story. So let's look at a gov.uk example. This dashboard was actually showing project progress. So we had agencies to be transitioned over to gov.uk. We had product gaps that we had to fulfill and user quotes from user research, because I just love like a bit of kind of user input to tell the story of the data, and bring the data to life. And then we've got a few different metrics down here. So what happened was that when we brought on one government agency, like on-page feedback from government spiked. Visits spiked as well. But basically, this was saying that government were not very happy with the content. People with on-page feedback, people don't usually say, you're doing a great job. This page is really good. It's usually there's something wrong with this page. So this was a really clear visual to take to senior leadership and say, look, something is wrong. We've transitioned this agency. Something's wrong. We need to address this. So we were able to get the resources to address this problem. And this is where data really works, is identifying change and communicating that change. So measuring site performance, dashboards do help you tell the story of your performance. Always include context with KPIs and use dashboards to drive conversations, not just reporting. So I think this is a key message from me, is that the data and the tools are quite a small amount of the work. It's actually the communication, getting everyone on board and getting everyone engaged in that narrative of the performance, which is the kind of the real work. And now we're going to look at using audience insight to inform content. And this is crucial to creating successful content and successful websites, because channels really, audiences really define what people need. So if we look at a case study from RNZ, which is New Zealand's public multimedia broadcaster, the goal was to bring people to the website. Okay, so they had a website, they were getting lots of traffic, and they didn't really know much about the audience who was visiting their website. And as I say, things have changed now, right? Like maybe we're not so fixed on getting people to our website, but the work is the same. It's to find out where our audience are and meet them there. So we thought that the RNZ audience, based on the radio listening audience, they had a lot of research. They've got radio programs, and based on that research, we thought that they were loyal, engaged, older, and frequently visited the website. It was assumed they were the same. But I did a deep dive into the data, and the reality was that 70% are young and news hungry, and they only visit one page. So this was a huge shift for RNZ into understanding their digital audience. So as a response, they reduced homepage efforts. Previously, the organisation had been putting such a lot, everyone in the organisation wanted their content on the homepage because that was key real estate. And the digital team was spending a lot of time curating this homepage. But when we were able to say that this page was actually only 10 or 20% of users were actually visiting the homepage, it was a bit of a revelation. And they were able to stop putting all that effort and we put effort into SEO training to optimize content for Google, which was a key driver of traffic. We also started using title tags and AMP, which is a news feature, and traffic increased 33% year to year. Related links, so this audience were very blinkered. They were coming in from their iPhone news screen and clicking on a news article and then looking at the page and going quickly out, or they were Googling about what's the weather like, weather reports, and then they were going into the weather page and clicking out. So they were very focused. And we tried to use really clear related links in content to see if we could encourage this audience to explore. But they didn't. We just had to accept that this audience were very focused and wanted one thing and to leave. So you can't change your audience. Well, the one place the related links did work was on recipes. If we had a recipe and put a related link, a link to another recipe, hundreds of clicks. So, there are edge cases and you can find those in data. So yeah, we gave them the tools they needed to monitor performance, and different teams had different needs and they didn't have much time and needed a quick view on the most meaningful data. So in dashboards, you can filter for particular sections or content types on your websites using URLs or metadata from your page code. And I was talking before about how viewing things on a site level cannot be so useful. But where we get these filters in, actually filtering into meaningful parts of our website or different content sections, this is where the value really comes. So we created dashboards for each of their radio programs. So the content is filtered to only show Saturday morning radio content. And the producers use these, like you see the spike on Saturdays. We've got the traffic sources coming in, devices, and what content people are engaging with, and audios, how social media is performing. And this allowed the producers to understand what content worked for each radio program and what channels people are using. And more importantly, stop wasting time on what wasn't working. So they could actually figure out, and they could know that if they did an emotional story, it was going to work well on Facebook, so they'd optimize it for Facebook. It's getting this quite nuanced view of your audience. Different organizations need different views of their audience, and this is a different website, Digital Pacific. They have this they present cultural artifacts from around the Pacific on their website. It's really cool. And these artifacts, they just have a little tile and it links off to the actual artifact on the kind of owner website. So there's libraries up there, there's Te Papa, there's Australian National University Library, all these different content partners that are contributing content, and their goal is to link people out to these different places. So their goal, they actually needed a single view on their data, and so we've got one dashboard and we have filters for each of the program or content types. So we can reduce reporting overhead, and this is a neat feature of GA4. You can just create audience filters in GA4, automatically pull them into Looker Studio and filter all your dashboard data to just that single audience, it could be based on a URL, but for Drupal sites, content metadata can be passed into GA4 to help teams understand how different types of content are performing. So you can actually pull out the content metadata, which is of course really useful for structured content and different. So now we'll go back to Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment and look at audiences for the Building Performance website. And this is just a nice little trick if you have a GA4 account. Comparison filters are really useful. You can use them in each of the standard reports, and they allow you to compare different audiences in a high-level view. So I always like to, on every site, look at mobile versus desktop users, because it's always interesting, different trends coming out. So for example, on this Building Performance site, mobile users were DIY newbies. They were Googling high-level queries like building code and building act, showing a very generic understanding of the content. They were more likely to visit on weekends. And the top referral site was trade tested. So you can just kind of see people thinking, I need to build a fence for my pool, and going to trade tested to get the materials and thinking, oh, I need to see regulations, on what to do this and how to do this. Desktop was different audience. So usage spiked on weekdays for the desktop audience. They were more likely to use acronyms like EDZBC and E2, which indicate an existing knowledge of the content. And these were people like your architects, your building professionals, who are, getting stuff done and need to remind themselves day to day of what each of these things involve. So to finish up with, looking at the future of analytics. So last year, Google started pushing us to go beyond GA4 and bring together more of our data. And they're allowing more integrations with GA4, like for Facebook, performance data, TikTok. But it is, even Google, who own GA4, are saying we've got to get a wider view. So, and it's becoming more important now as user journeys get harder to see. As we said, people are discovering content through a range of different channels. There are stronger privacy measures and more complex content delivery systems. So we need to move from measuring websites to understanding our audiences and how they engage with content across the ecosystem. So we need to bring together signals from websites, search, service data, outcomes, call centres, whatever's available. And the future isn't about tracking every step. It's about understanding enough of the system to make better decisions. So just a couple of takeaways. Define what success looks like before looking at the data, or get a theory. It's really hard to say this. The data often doesn't say this is how this is performing. Use data to understand audience behaviour, not just report numbers. And look across your ecosystem for meaningful patterns and insights. So thanks everyone. If you'd like, I kind of post stuff on GA4, content performance, and AI-driven discovery on LinkedIn if you want to follow me there. At Lanalytics, we can help you with understanding your audience, getting confidence in your data, analytics strategy and implementation. So get in touch and come and have a chat if you want to talk to me about anything here or any of our services. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lana. Does anyone have any questions? We've got time for maybe one. At the back, thank you.
You're talking about AI-driven discovery and how, I guess I have a question about how you think you can influence what is presented in the LLMs to drive an outcome from your analytics, and how you kind of measure that back, I guess, through that.
So that's a big question, yeah, and I think everyone's kind of working that out now. Like, in terms of optimizing for AI, it really depends on the unique situation. I think most people doing that are looking in and looking how things are currently performing, how they're currently performing in AI, and you can only do that with kind of manual searches or tools that do sample searches, and just testing things and seeing what works. For one of my clients, they had a video that was doing super well, and it was like, that is the key to your AI, because AI loves videos. It can't summarize videos. It often presents videos, and the recommendation was do more videos. That is a great AI strategy, along with other things. But yeah, and in terms of measuring it, I mean, it's really hard. There are very expensive tools that do kind of put like heaps of queries in the different engines, and you get back ideas. But as we know, like, the same query can produce different results. It's changing over time. Also, the tools are changing themselves. I wonder if they're deliberately not giving us performance metrics because they don't want us to do these big performance strategies and work. Like, it's all changing. So I'm very cautious of giving optimization and performance technique really clear, strong recommendations. However, we can. So yeah, we just have to basically do that. Like, look at our audience, see what they're doing now, move with them, test things. I think that's all we can do.
Fantastic, thank you. We probably do have just 2 more minutes if anyone's got something quick. I saw someone else, there was another hand. Oh yeah, Andrew?
Slightly off topic. Do you have any tips for filtering out AI bots and that from the site? We're constantly struggling with that, skewing the analytics, and we're not really that interested in the attrition, if you like it.
That's a good question. I mean,
oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I don't have a microphone. I'll talk about it. The question was about filtering out AI bots from generic reports.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's really frustrating because GA4 was supposed to exclude these. You can't really create easy spam filters because GA4 was supposed to be magic. But yes, in most accounts that I see these bots. It's actually tough because we could do a review of, and identify the spam and filter those out, but you're going to get new ones. So it's an ongoing thing. We can create a report which will bring in the weird domain sending traffic or whatever. But I also found the new AI advisor within GA4. I'm not supposed to tell you this because it's not always accurate, but I found that it did identify spikes in my own account from bots. So that's one way. You say, what was the spike, or can you see any evidence of bot-like activity? Might be a way to do that as well.